I never thought I'd be the kind of man to sit behind a screen and pour my heart out to strangers. But maybe that's exactly why I'm here, because I don't know where else to put the weight pressing on my chest. My wife, Anna, and I had been together for almost 9 years, married for 6. From the outside, we looked like the picture of stability, steady jobs, a modest home, the occasional trip when money allowed. People used to tell us we looked like the perfect couple. And for the longest time, I believed them. But the truth is, cracks had started showing long before I even realized they were cracks. At first, it was subtle. She started going to bed later than me, always finishing something on her phone. She grew quieter, distant in a way I couldn't name. I told myself it was stress from work, that she needed space, that I shouldn't smother her with questions. She also mentioned a new friend from work. His name came up casually, like an afterthought. Just a friend, she said with a smile that was too quick, too rehearsed. I ignored the twinge in my gut. I wanted to trust her. God, I did trust her. Looking back now, I realized those moments weren't harmless. They were the beginning of something I never thought I'd live through. And I wish I could say I was prepared for what I found. The night I found out still replays in my head like a cruel movie I can't turn off. Anna had left her laptop open on the kitchen table. Normally, I would never go through her things. We had always prided ourselves on trust. But something about that night was different. She had been smiling at her phone more than usual, laughing at texts I wasn't a part of. When she went upstairs to shower, I sat there staring at her computer, my heart pounding like a drum. I told myself I wouldn't snoop, that it was wrong. But then the screen lit up with a notification, her photo gallery syncing. A string of new images. Curiosity cracked open the door, and suspicion shoved me through it. I clicked, and there they were. Photos of her and him. Not just work selfies or group shots. These were different, intimate. His arm wrapped around her waist, her lips close to his cheek. Her eyes lit up in a way I hadn't seen directed at me in years. In one, they were in what looked like a hotel room, wine glasses on the nightstand. She was wearing a dress I had never seen before. My stomach dropped so violently I thought I might throw up. The floor seemed to tilt beneath me. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the laptop. I kept scrolling, even though every fiber of me screamed to stop. Each picture was a nail in the coffin of the life I thought I had. She had said he was just a friend, but the photos told me otherwise. I waited for her to come downstairs, the laptop still open in front of me. My hands were trembling, my throat tight, my chest heavy like someone was sitting on it. When she walked in, towel wrapped around her hair, she looked surprised to see me still up. Then her eyes landed on the screen. The color drained from her face. Anna, I managed to say, my voice low, raw. What is this? She froze. For a moment, she didn't say a word. Then, instead of rushing over to explain, she just sighed, like she had been caught doing something inevitable. It's not what it looks like, she started, the cliché cutting me like glass. Not what it looks like. I snapped. He's holding you. You're in a hotel room with him. How the hell is that not what it looks like? Her hands fidgeted with the edge of the towel. She avoided my eyes. We're just close. I needed someone to talk to. You've been so distant lately, and... I slammed my fist on the table. Don't you dare blame this on me. Her lip trembled, but her eyes hardened. I didn't plan for this to happen. The silence that followed was suffocating. My heart was pounding so loud I could barely hear. The woman I loved, the woman I thought I knew, was standing in front of me, and suddenly she felt like a stranger. I don't remember how long we stood there, staring at each other across the kitchen table. It could have been minutes or hours. All I know is that something inside me cracked that night. The anger burned hot at first, but it didn't last. It gave way to something heavier, grief. A suffocating grief that wrapped around my chest and refused to let go. I went upstairs without another word. I didn't even know why. Maybe because I couldn't stand to look at her. Maybe because part of me hoped I'd wake up and realize this was a nightmare. I lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying every conversation, every laugh, every touch we'd shared. And now, In the light of those photos, all of it felt tainted. When she came in later, she didn't try to touch me. She just sat on her side of the bed, silent. I could hear her breathing, uneven and shaky. I wondered if she was crying, but I couldn't bring myself to turn and look. Sleep never came. Instead, my mind spun with images of her and him. Her smile, her hand in his, her body leaning toward us like it belonged there. The worst part? She looked happy. Happier than I'd seen her with me in a long time. That realization gutted me more than the betrayal itself. By morning, I wasn't the same man who had walked into that kitchen the night before. Something in me had been broken, and I didn't know if it could ever be fixed. The next morning, she tried to talk. I was sitting at the table, nursing a cup of coffee I couldn't even taste, when she slid into the chair across from me. Her face was pale, her eyes swollen. "Please," she started softly, "just let me explain." I didn't say a word. I couldn't. My jaw was clenched so tight it hurt. She reached for my hand, but I pulled away. That seemed to sting more than my silence. "It wasn't supposed to be like this," she whispered. "At first, he was just someone I could vent to. Someone who listened. You've been so busy, so tired." I felt invisible. Invisible. That word dug into me. I wanted to scream that I was working late nights and extra hours for us. For our life. That every sacrifice I made was to keep us steady. But instead, I just sat there, staring at her. She went on. "I never meant to hurt you. It just happened. One thing led to another. I didn't know how to stop." Tears ran down her cheeks. She looked fragile, broken even. But all I could think was, if she was this broken now, why wasn't she broken when she was in his arms? Why only after being caught? Her words felt hollow. Excuses wrapped in soft tones. And the worst part? A part of me still wanted to believe her. Still wanted to cling to the idea that maybe, just maybe, this wasn't as bad as it seemed. But the photos burned in my mind, and no excuse could erase them. It didn't take long for my silence to shatter. By the second day, something inside me snapped. The grief that had weighed me down turned into a wildfire, and all that came out was rage. I shouted at her. Words I never thought I'd say to her came pouring out. I asked how long, where, how many times. Did he touch her the way I used to? Did she laugh at his jokes more than mine? Did she think of me at all when she was with him? She cried. She begged me to stop. But once the anger took hold, I couldn't control it. Every memory we had built together now felt like a lie, and I couldn't keep it inside anymore. I punched the wall at one point, hard enough to split the skin on my knuckles. The pain barely registered. She rushed toward me, reaching for my hand, but I shoved her away. The thought of her touching me made my skin crawl. I hated her in that moment. Or at least, I thought I did. But deep beneath the anger, buried under the fire, was something even worse. Love. Because despite everything, a part of me still loved her. And that made the betrayal cut deeper than any wound I could inflict on myself. After the storm of my anger passed, there was only silence. A heavy, suffocating silence that hung in the house like a fog. I couldn't look at her the same way anymore. Every time her phone buzzed, I flinched. Every time she walked into the room, I felt the urge to leave. I started sleeping on the couch, claiming it was because I didn't want to keep her up with my tossing and turning. But we both knew the truth. I couldn't share a bed with her. Not after knowing what she had done in someone else's. Meals became separate. Conversations became short, functional exchanges about bills, groceries, appointments. The woman who had once been my best friend now felt like a stranger occupying the same space. She tried to bridge the gap. She left notes for me, sent texts during the day, tried to ask about my work. But I couldn't bring myself to answer most of them. I didn't want her words. I didn't want her comfort. I didn't want her. And yet, every night as I lay on that couch, I stared at the ceiling and wondered, how did we get here? How did the two people who once swore forever end up on opposite sides of an invisible wall? The distance grew, not just in the house, but in my heart. And I began to wonder if there was any way back, or if we were already too far gone. One night, after days of barely speaking, she came into the living room where I was lying on the couch. She stood there for a moment, wringing her hands, her face pale and exhausted. "I need to tell you everything," she said quietly. I didn't answer. I didn't even look at her. But she sat down anyway, her voice trembling. "It wasn't just once," she admitted. "It wasn't just a mistake. It went on for months." Her words were knives, each syllable cut deeper than the last. Months. While I was working late to pay off our debts. While I was cooking dinner, waiting for her to come home. While I was lying awake beside her, thinking we were just drifting a little, that it was normal. She went on, tears running down her face. I didn't know how to stop. He made me feel wanted again, like I mattered. And I know that sounds awful, but I held up my hand, finally turning to face her. "Stop." My voice cracked. "Just stop." She sobbed harder, covering her face with her hands. But I couldn't bring myself to comfort her. Not this time. In that moment, I realized the truth. Whatever I thought we had left, whatever scraps of love I was clinging to, it was gone. She hadn't just betrayed me once. She had chosen him again and again over me. And that was something I didn't know if I could ever forgive. After her confession, something inside me finally snapped, not in rage this time, but in clarity. I had been holding on, somewhere deep down, to the hope that this was a mistake, a one-time slip, something we could maybe patch over if we both tried hard enough. But months? That was no accident. That was a choice she made over and over, while looking me in the eye every day and telling me she loved me. The next morning, I packed a bag. Just a small one. Enough clothes for a week, my toothbrush, my laptop. She watched me from the doorway, her face red and blotchy from crying all night. "Where are you going?" she whispered, her voice small. "I don't know," I said honestly. "But I can't stay here. Not right now." Her eyes filled with fresh tears. "Please don't do this. We can fix it. I'll do anything." I looked at her then, really looked at her. The woman I had built a life with. The woman who once was my safe place, my best friend, my everything. And all I felt was hollow. "I don't think you understand," I told her, my voice shaking. "You already did everything. And you broke us." I walked out the door, and for the first time since discovering the truth, I felt like I could finally breathe, even if that breath hurt like hell. I ended up crashing at a friend's place. He didn't ask too many questions, just handed me a spare blanket and gave me space. For that, I was grateful. I didn't have the words to explain anyway. The nights were the worst. Lying on a stranger's couch, staring at the ceiling, my mind wouldn't shut off. Every thought was a replay of her laughter, her touch, the look in her eyes in those photos. The silence around me was deafening, but at the same time, it felt safer than being home with her. I stopped eating much. Coffee kept me going during the day. Whiskey dulled the pain at night. Friends texted, asking if I was okay, but I ignored most of them. I didn't want pity. I didn't want advice. I didn't want anyone telling me what I should do. I just wanted the noise in my head to stop. There were moments when I almost called her. Moments when the loneliness was unbearable. When I thought maybe hearing her voice would help. But every time, I remembered her confession. Months. And I put the phone down. Isolation became both a punishment and a shield. It hurt, but at least in the quiet, I didn't have to pretend. I was broken. And I didn't know how to put myself back together. Being alone gave me something I hadn't felt in months. Time. Time to think, to question, to dig into the mess of my emotions. I replayed our entire relationship in my head. The good moments, the bad, the moments I thought were meaningless, but now seemed like warning signs. I asked myself 1,000 questions. Was I blind? Did I miss the signs because I wanted to? Did I unknowingly push her away? And then, the hardest question of all, did I ever really know her? I realized love isn't always enough. Trust isn't something that can be rebuilt with apologies alone. I could love her with everything I had, but if she chose someone else while still living in my house, love didn't matter. I thought about my own flaws too. The nights I came home late, the weekends I spent buried in work, the times I was too tired to talk or hold her. Did that make her cheat? No, not at all. But it made me confront uncomfortable truths about myself, about how I had allowed distance to creep in and fester between us. Somewhere in that reflection, I felt a flicker of understanding. Not forgiveness, not peace, but clarity. The betrayal was hers, but the life we had built together was now a mirror reflecting both our failures. And for the first time, I realized that moving forward wouldn't just be about her. It would be about me. After days of silence, tears, and sleepless nights, I finally reached a decision. I knew I couldn't go back. Not yet, maybe not ever. The betrayal had cut too deep, and pretending like nothing happened would be a lie I couldn't live with. But leaving her entirely, that thought tore me apart too. We had shared almost a decade of our lives together. I wasn't ready to throw that away, without trying to understand if anything could be salvaged. I called her. My hands shook as I held the phone to my ear. "We need to talk," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. Not yelling, not blaming, but talk. She agreed immediately, relief in her voice. I could hear it. That made my chest tighten. Relief. From her. Not me. When we met, I told her the truth. That I loved her, that I was hurt beyond words, and that I needed time to decide if I could trust her again. No promises, no ultimatums. Just the honest truth. I need to heal first. It was a small step, but it felt like the first real step I had taken since discovering the betrayal. For the first time in weeks, I felt a sliver of control over my own life. And I realized that sometimes the hardest decisions aren't about ending things. They're about reclaiming yourself. The days that followed were awkward and fragile, like walking on thin ice over a dark, unknown lake. I didn't know if I could trust her, or even trust myself around her. We started small. Short conversations about mundane things, groceries, bills, the weather. I noticed the little things I had taken for granted. The way she poured coffee, the absent-minded smile she gave when she didn't notice me watching. Part of me wanted to hate all of it, but another part missed it. We agreed on counseling. She went willingly, without argument, though her eyes always carried a shadow of guilt. I went reluctantly, thinking it might help me untangle my emotions, even if it didn't save us. Some nights, I lay awake and thought about the future. Could I ever forgive her fully? Could I ever trust her again? Some days, the answer seemed possible. Others, I wanted to walk away and never look back. But through it all, I realized healing wasn't a straight path. It was jagged, messy, full of setbacks and small victories. And the only thing I could control was how I chose to take each step forward. Healing didn't come overnight. It didn't come in dramatic revelations or grand gestures. It came in tiny moments. The first morning I didn't wake up thinking about her with him. The first night I slept without my chest feeling like it was made of stone. The first time I laughed at a memory that didn't sting. I started focusing on myself. I went back to the gym, picked up old hobbies I had abandoned, and reconnected with friends I had ignored during our marriage. Every little accomplishment reminded me that I still existed outside of the betrayal, that I was still whole, even if pieces of me had been shattered. When I did see her, it was different. I was no longer the same man who had walked out that night in shock and rage. I had boundaries now, a clearer sense of who I was and what I would allow in my life. Trust would take time, if it ever fully returned, but I had learned that my peace didn't depend on her actions anymore. I realized that healing doesn't always mean fixing what was broken. Sometimes it just means learning to live with the scars and using them to grow stronger. Looking back now, I can see the threads of the life I once had and the life I'm building after it. Betrayal changed me, but it didn't destroy me. It forced me to confront truths I had ignored, to face pain I didn't want to feel, and to reclaim my sense of self. I don't know if Anna and I will ever fully repair what was broken. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. But I've learned that love alone isn't enough. Trust, respect, and honesty matter even more. And if those are gone, no amount of love can fill the void. To anyone going through something similar, I want to say this. Feel your pain. Sit with it. Don't rush yourself into forgiveness or closure. And remember that your worth isn't defined by someone else's choices. You can heal, even when it feels impossible. You can survive. You can rebuild. Betrayal is a wound that cuts deep, but it can also teach you how strong you really are. And in the end, that strength, though forged in fire, is yours to keep.